making Tuscan Coffee Cake. Tuscan Coffee Cake is a high-rising yeast bread that includes walnuts, dates, and some golden raisins or craisins, getting its sweetness from dates and a crunchy sugar topping. Our Tuscan style coffee cake requires a little bit of advanced planning because we need to make an overnight starter. So we're going to mix that together and then we'll get baking. Our starter is made with 1 cup of all-purpose flour or bread flour, and then we're using just a smidge of yeast, 1/16 of a teaspoon. And that gets combined with 1/2 cup of cool water. Blend that well and cover it tightly and let it sit at room temperature overnight. We begin with our overnight starter. Add 2/3 of a cup of warm water. Now we add 2 3/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour or bread flour. 4 tablespoons of softened butter. Should be able to make an indentation in the butter. 1 large egg that is also at room temperature. 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar, 2 teaspoons of instant yeast, and 1 1/4 teaspoons of salt. And I'm going to begin by stirring this. This recipe is great for a bread machine or your stand mixer. It's a very thick elastic dough, so it's not recommended for hand kneading. The texture of this dough is just crazy elastic. It makes a wonderful bread. Now, I think I'm the only person I know that uses a hand mixer to help knead bread. The stand mixer is definitely more efficient. I mixed this just a couple minutes with the hand mixer. It's certainly easier to use the stand mixer. This is a very tacky dough, and it's not a great dough for hand kneading. What I'm going to do is use the slap and fold method, which I demonstrated in my honey wheat bread video back in the fall. So I'm going to give that a whirl and see if we can get a nice supple dough. Now this is our dough after about 60 slap and folds. It's still very sticky. Slap it down. Stretch it, and this is the important part, stretching it and then flip it over. You don't really have to slap it with a lot of force, but you can see this dough is just all over the place. But this has become my favorite way to develop a dough that is this sticky. So I'm going to keep going. This is our dough after another 60 slap and folds. It's becoming much more cohesive. It's not really sticking to my surface. My surface needs to be cleaned up a bit. That surface really needed to be cleaned up. I'm going to just hand knead it about 5 times. It's not sticking to the surface at all. So giving it that couple minute rest while I clean the surface really helped it come together. So let's place this in a well-oiled bowl, twirl him around and over, and cover him. And we're going to put him in a warm area to rise for about an hour. It most likely will not double in size, but that's okay. Get rid of that gas. We're going to knead in 1 cup of chopped walnuts. This is going to be so good. 3/4 of a cup of dates, and I'm just tossing them in a little flour here. Dates and walnuts in a yeasted bread. This is what I just love for breakfast. It's especially wonderful for Christmas morning. We're also adding 3/4 of a cup of dried cranberries. You could substitute golden raisins or use a combination of the two. Take the dough and pull it up and sort of envelope everything. And fold it over again. This is actually kind of fun to me. And we're going to knead this in. This is going into a 9-inch round cake pan. And I have greased the cake pan, mash it into a flat ball. Now we're going to cover this again and let it rise for about an hour. Our dough has risen for about an hour, and it's pretty much filled the pan on the sides, and it's just barely cresting the top. We're making a very simple glaze to drizzle over the top. We need 2 tablespoons of sugar, 1 teaspoon of water, and 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. And this gives our yeasted coffee cake a little extra sweetness. This is going to bake in a 350-degree oven on the bottom rack for about 60 minutes. You'll want to check on this to see if it's overbrowning about 20 minutes before the bake time is up. And you may need to lightly tint this with foil. So into our oven, and we will be back. I believe it's ready. Nice little crispy, crunchy topping. This is gonna sit in the pan for 5 minutes, and then we'll turn this out onto a cooling rack. Now, to me, this is a thing of beauty. But I'm gonna show you, it can be a little tricky to remove this. Because we filled this with so many dates and raisins or craisins, because of the high sugar content in the dates, they could be sticking. If they were on the bottom of the dough, they could be sticking. So you have to keep going around this with a knife and very carefully get this bread to come out of the pan. Beautiful, beautiful. And it is a very, very tender loaf. So this is where some of that fruit stuck, and I had to kind of pry it up. Now we're gonna let this cool completely before slicing into it. Oh, it's still warm, and I should wait till it's completely cool, but I just couldn't. It's just irresistible to me. Maple butter. Look at the crumb on this.